What's going on, guys? My name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to a new World of Tanks preview video. And today we have the A46, a tier 6 British light tank. And as you probably already can see a little bit, this tank apparently is based off the Dread Arch project. I'm not entirely sure about this. I didn't really put that much information behind it, so yeah. When I first saw the stats of this vehicle, I was a little bit underwhelmed. It just looked bland and nothing really special. Actually, it looked very, very poor and something which would be totally perfect for the line of light tanks we already have for the British Tech 3. Light tanks which are pretty meh when we look at them from all directions. But yeah, not only does this tank look a little bit like a pancake, it also has surprised me a little bit after looking more into the stats, doing some calculations and having a look at the terrain resistances as well as gun characteristics on the move and on the turret traverse, the gun soft stats in the end. So yeah, let's have a look at the stats of the A46, and the first thing you will notice is its very, very low alpha damage of just 105. To that, we have coupled 105mm of penetration with 138mm of premium penetration. Those are, in my opinion, rather weak values, you know. Then we have 3.3 seconds reload time, which kind of sounds long for just 105 damage. And we have an accuracy of 0.45, which is very, 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 very bad. To that, aim time of 1.9 seconds, which is definitely not too bad, meaning that if you are standing still, you should have no issue whatsoever of shooting, always when you're fully aimed in when you are using your DPM. Turret traverse, 52 degrees per second, sounds alright. 9 degrees of gun depression sounds very, very good and very, very comfortable to use, and 50 rounds of damage. So, with this reload time, with this alpha, we actually get a DPM of 1900, and if we now start to compare this to other lights, that is pretty respectable. Here we have, now just have to quickly find it obviously, there we go. Here we have the DPM of the MT25 is 1600, 5916 1700, T52 1700, and only really the Type 64, which is considered one of the strongest tier 6 or strongest premiums, for its tier, well, this one has 2100. T47, however, also has slightly more, while the other two have slightly less, okay? I did not include the AMX 12T as well as the Wheeled Boy because they are a little bit of a category for their own, which would be making it hard to compare stats properly. When it comes to penetration rate, it is not the class worst. This goes to the T52 and the 5916. But, the alpha goes to the T5916 and T52. But penetration rate, this is class worst. With just 105mm, it is the class worst of all those three. And again, please don't forget that all of those tanks do also have premium rounds. And for example, here the MT25 gets up to 150mm. This guy to almost 190mm of premium rounds. Seriously, there is a lot of hidden potential in all of those premium rounds of most of those tanks, where meanwhile our little A46 struggles with just 138mm. But yeah, another thing I forgot talking about is that the accuracy on the move is actually class best. Most tanks have 0.13 to 0.12 during traverse. That is the same thing for the A46 when it doesn't get changed in the end. What is, however, better is the turret traverse accuracy, where all the others are at 0.08 to 0.12, it is at 0.06. That is an absolutely amazing value for tier 6, and this is something which makes this tank actually pretty interesting in my personal opinion. Yes, it doesn't have the best penetration. Yes, the DPM is actually pretty decent, but the alpha is pretty low. But now we got a tank which is actually fairly accurate on the move, where meanwhile its accuracy while standing still is pretty darn poo-poo. Especially as it is actually class worst when we compare it to all the other vehicles. So, next up we have the mobility, and the mobility is a little bit, actually lacking 60 kph top speed, 20 kph backward speed, 22 HP per ton ratio, and 55 degrees per second traverse speed. That is pretty meh in my personal opinion. To that we get the meh HP per ton ratio, which we can also compare down here, where all the other tanks except for the Type 64 have a better HP per ton ratio. So 22 HP per ton, yeah, not that good. Same goes for the top speed, where it is actually second to class worse, with only the T21 being slightly worse. But then again, it has 20 kph backward speed, which is class worst of all those vehicles. The terrain resistances are also not overwhelming, to be honest. 0.8, 0.9, and 1.5. Those values, there are some tanks which are worse. For example, the T52. It is worse by a decent chunk here and there. But for most other tanks, yeah, it won't be as speedy as Wargaming likes to talk about it to be. Next up, we have with this tank the survivability. 580 hit points, which is pretty low, no armor to speak of, except for obviously it's a little bit rounded and such and so forth, so that could work out to help a little bit. And lastly, it has view range, 370 meters. That is pretty decent in my opinion. It is not class worst. This goes to the 5916 and the MT25. Okay. But it is also not class best. This goes to the Type 64, which again is considered one of the strongest light tanks in the game. 370, 46, works totally. There's nothing really to cough at, especially if you decide to play this tank as a boy which tries to hide and with binos and so on and so forth. So that is pretty much it about this vehicle. The only thing I couldn't really find yet is camouflage values of this tank. So the last thing we have is the concealment. This is actually one of the best in class. It is 16% while stationary and while moving. And I sadly couldn't find out what the camouflage values are during shooting. But in the end, seriously, 16% is a little bit worse than MT25 and worse than a 5916. But other than that, it's much better than T52, Type 64, T37, and so on and so forth. So that is basically it. That is the A46. It looks like a pretty decent tank. Actually, it looks like a very fun light tank in my opinion. The only real things I have concerning about is, what is it going to be? A reward vehicle, premium vehicle, or a standard tech tree vehicle? As you know, Wargaming decided to change up the tech tree sooner or later. They decided on that for fixed. And this tank, in theory, could be a pretty decent substitute for, for the Cromwell, which would lead over here. You could use it as a new light tank to help out in the tech tree through the tech tree shuffle. But then we have the issue, it has 4 crew members. That wouldn't really sit well with the crews you get from the Crusader, which is the current tier 6 tank, or the crews from the Cromwell, which has 5 people. Now I'm a little bit confused. While the other whole line has only 3. So that wouldn't really work out, would it? And the same goes that if you would have this tank as a premium vehicle, it also would have 4 crew members, while the tank itself, or the tank tree itself, has only 3 and 2. So it would actually not be a good crew trainer either, when it would be a premium. So I'm a little bit conflicted. What is going to happen with the A46? What are your suggestions? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a thumbs up. If you didn't, leave a thumbs down and let me know what I can do better. Obviously, if you're new to the channel and want to keep up to date with World of Tanks related things, feel free to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe of coronavirus, and cheers guys.